Thank you, Lord Mayor. These past few months have been the most tumultuous, the most staggering and the most bizarre I've ever experienced since I joined this council back in 1995. I've seen some challenges during my time, but this year we've just had crisis after crisis after crisis, and the impact on our residents will be devastating. We think all of us on crossbenches have been frustrated by the lack of accountability by Birmingham Labour, but specifically the Cabinet. There are some Labour backbenchers who have the grace to be embarrassed, privately at least, but the leadership have wasted no time in blaming everyone else, which is ironic as they wasted so much time failing to fix the problems that caused these crises, as Councillor Alden has highlighted. And yet, and again today, in Councillor Cotton's speech, we have seen more concentration on blaming others than acceptance of the mistakes that have been made and a forward view about what should be done about them. This was meant to be a new administration, established by Starmer's Labour, which focused on honesty and transparency. The last full council meeting was a clear opportunity to demonstrate those values to the city at a time when we all wanted hope and good leadership. It was genuinely disappointing to see the leaders passing the buck and refusing to apologise, with one only arriving after the lack of apology itself had become the story. It was as though you just didn't get it. I believe you're better than that, Councillor Cotton, but doing things differently means reflecting honestly on what went wrong. And last week's second Section 114 and Section 5 notices were unequivocal that we're still not tackling this issue with the urgency it requires. Now, Councillor Alden's talked a lot about the history here, and I welcome the fact that there will be an inquiry into that, and we will, hopefully, eventually get to the bottom of what's gone wrong and who is to blame. Well, I hope the Labour leadership of this council will finally treat this as a watershed moment. We literally cannot afford to get into any similar disasters in the future. Change is needed, and it begins with some introspection. The internal Labour report into the Labour Party, by the Labour Party, conducted by their national party, pointed out that there had been a breakdown of relations with the trade unions. That breakdown is now being played out very publicly at the expense of our residents. So this must be resolved. The report also highlighted issues of factionalism within the party, misogyny, racism, mistrust and poor communication. These failings have a knock-on effect on officers and then the public. The council cannot afford these problems to be swept under the carpet anymore. The Kerslake report in 2014 said that the council lacked a clear vision, had failed to tackle deep-rooted problems such as the low level of skills, and had a culture of sweeping problems under the carpet. I'm afraid that the equal pay issue is clear evidence of this. 9 years on, little has changed. So I welcome the appointment of Max Caller as our lead commissioner, and I've written it to him suggesting 5 clear lines of inquiry. The first, of course, is the equal pay problem. Most urgently, we need to stop the bleed by completing a comprehensive job evaluation exercise. While this is being done, we endure a rising bill of equal pay claims of up to £300 a minute. In this context, we have already spent nearly 3 months, which is 50 million at that level, trying and failing to agree a methodology for this exercise, and that's utterly disgraceful. It frankly looks ridiculous to the public that we wasted that time and then it will take another 18 months to complete the exercise. After all, it's not the first time that local authorities have evaluated the roles of their employees. We must do everything we can to minimise the time this takes. We also, of course, need to get urgent answers onto how this happened in the first place, as I've covered. it has been mentioned that in the context of this budget this year, and I think that needs highlighting, that by the time the budget was set, it had been highlighted that we were facing, at that point, claims of between 300 and 800 million. So why wasn't action taken then? Why was a 0% risk placed on those equal pay claims in the budget? And if that was the genuine view, why then did the leader then spend all the time and effort he spent over the summer getting to the root of the problems? You wouldn't do that if there was something that had a 0% risk. And all this delay has practical implications. If the challenge had at least been faced up to at the time of the budget setting 7 months ago, we could have cut the size of the total bill and started dealing with it earlier. Perhaps we could even have kept control of the process ourselves. Then we have the Oracle situation. Who blundered and who knew when the blunders had been made needs careful examination, in addition to the technical work which is needed to ensure our finances are in order and that we are both receiving and paying out what we should. Why was the Cabinet report in 2019 setting out how Oracle needed to be implemented not adhered to? This highlights a major concern about governance in this Council. We were asking for it months earlier in the year, and we were given assurances that all would be fine. Then the bombshell was dropped that it is costing us up to 100 million, over 5 times the original figure. Why has this happened? And what it tells us about the governance of this city is really important. This leads me on to my third line of inquiry, which is the governance of this city. We'll soon have the report of CFGS on our structures and our processes, with a final report by the end of October. How that will fit into the work of commissioners is a key issue. For my part, I think that while recent events show that once again, that while the Kerslake review accurately identified a lot of the problems that the city faces, the solutions that were posed to rectify those problems were fundamentally flawed and have clearly failed. This must now be a time when we come together to develop solutions that will succeed. I really hope we can do that on a cross-party basis. As a starter for 10, I believe that this Council is simply too big and complex to operate effectively as a local authority. And some people have argued that we must be broken up, and that is a possible approach, but I don't think it's necessary. I think that by radically devolving decisions, the delivery of many of our services to new town or parish councils in districts in our city, while retaining strategic decisions at the Council, we can get the best of both worlds and reinvigorate our democracy. Others will disagree, but let's have the debate and build a consensus for a structure that works better for future generations. My fourth line of inquiry is scrutiny. Sadly, scrutiny, which was hollowed out by Kerslake, while doing some good work, has not engaged sufficiently in many of the challenges our city has faced. We need to strengthen the role of scrutiny, continuing the work that has been done just recently to match scrutiny committees to cabinet roles to tighten accountability, to ensure scrutiny committees look more closely at financial progress, and once and for all, we need to make the most of the resources we have on this Council by ensuring that the best talent and experience leads our scrutiny committees, whichever party they belong to. Parliament does this with select committees, and we need finally to do the same. This should go hand in hand with more sophisticated training for members taking or likely to take in the future leadership roles, whether in cabinet, opposition or scrutiny. And finally, we need to look again at how we manage regeneration in our city. We debated aspects of this earlier in this month, so I won't go into the detail now. But whether we're looking at retrofitting interwar homes or rebuilding our city centre, we need to get much better at it to ensure that what we do builds on the strengths of our history and communities. Lord Mayor, I've tried in my speech not just to comment on the situation we face, but look forward and see how we can rise from the ashes of the current disaster to be a better governed city, more responsive to our citizens, and have a council that will look forward confidently. Perhaps that sounds far-fetched now, but our city has faced down grim challenges before and risen stronger. It can and must do so again. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jahama.